Oh, hi guys. Okay, so on this week's episode of Me Being Gay, surprise! I'm greatly enjoying doing these. Um, I haven't done this. I haven't given myself the chance to. I just got these cards like maybe a month ago, and I used them all but once. I don't think I used them twice. I think I used them just the once prior to making these videos. I used them once when I first got them, and then I used them once just before I started making these videos. So this is all very new to me and very fun for me. Um, Also because I like being able to talk about things. I can't shut the fuck up ever. And like I said in the last video, this gives me, it's like more concise this way. It gives me something to actually, like, focal points to actually communicate the message I'm trying to convey. I am drinking some chai tea. I literally, and I didn't know if this was gonna fuck up the machine or not. I got my coffee maker from the Goodwill, so I paid $4 for it. So if I fucked it up, that sucks, but at least it wasn't like a huge investment. It's a really nice coffee maker though. I mean, and it was only $4. Um, but I decided to I wanted to make this chai tea mostly, if not all the way, with almond milk. So I just put the almond milk in the coffee pot and let it get hot. And it seems to have done the trick because the shit is creamy with my chai tea. Um, what was I just thinking? Oh, it's probably, I would, so if you're going for flavor and for thickness when it comes to milk alternatives, oat milk. Okay. But the bloats oat me. So the oats bloat me. So I do the nuts. The nuts seem to work well with my bod. Um, I say that I've also been doing like a sort of cleanse because my diet was absolutely atrocious for months. Um, so lately I've been trying to clean that up, and especially this week. And so I've been seeing the effects of like spinach and nuts on my body, and it's mostly just because my body's trying to clear out all the bullshit. And I actually have some vitamins that are for stomach clearing or like for full system clearing that I should actually be taking. But I'm gonna just start when I move into my place, and then I'm gonna like get all in my shit. Like everything's gonna be new and fresh and better. It's just gonna be better. I'm very excited. Very excited. And I think that's why I haven't posted any of these videos yet. I continue to upload them and not post them. I will post them all at the same time, I'm sure. But in part, that's just been because I've been like, man, it's been years of having to be afraid of people like knowing where I'm living. And even now, I mean, I have people making death threats against me or like threatening to like mug me and shit. People are so dumb. People are so dumb. Like they have nothing better to do with their time. I literally don't bother anybody. I don't do shit. I didn't sleep with your boyfriend. It's like, get over it. People are so dumb, but whatever. I'm tired of living in fear. I'm tired of having to be paranoid. I feel like it's all just part of like a big game to try to get me to be too scared to be where I want to be. I like it here. I like it here. I like this is a big old state, Texas. It has everything. And everywhere I've been has been wild and it's beautiful and the weather is so interesting and there's cactus, there's armadillos. I like Texas, so fucking deal with it. Um, I never liked Wisconsin the way that I like Texas, so like I don't know what to tell you. It's funny because like I had a client that would say that to always like she kept telling me about her son having gone to California. He was obviously born and raised in Texas. He went to California and came back and was like, people aren't proud of anything anywhere. Like they ain't proud of shit in California. you know, like they are here in Texas, but like that's largely how it is across the US. And like I remember in Wisconsin always making fun of people in Texas for being so proud of Texas because it was like, why is Texas so great? Why? But like that's because Texas really is great. Like it has its own industry. Like really good things are made here. If you want the best of the best, it's going to be something that was made here, and it's not going to be that hard to get it, and like you can get stuff for cheaper because of that, and you can get stuff that's better quality because of that. We're like, you ain't getting good shit in Wisconsin. Not even the cheese is the better shit because that's better in California. And in California, they don't like that shit. Like their wine. We got good wine in Wisconsin. We got cherries. We got cherries during a certain season that are like, we're very well known for. Apples. Um, but Washington's known for that too. So it's not like, I mean, and even those things, that's just like one thing where like Texas has everything. It has everything. And like when they say that things are bigger in Texas, like they are. They are like the 3-lane highways that we have in Wisconsin are equatable to the 5-lane highways they have here. Like shit's literally just very big. It's more spread out, but like it just seems like bigger because of the way that it is. The state is wild. And like when you're driving in and out of the state too, like you realize how big it is. Um, and I've been barely anywhere through the state, really. Having driven through it multiple times now. Um, so, you know, there's lots to see and lots to do here. I get like people in the Midwest will live in their hometown their entire lives, and they'll be like 40 having never left their hometown, and I mean like barely even visiting anywhere else. um, where in Texas, like it makes sense when people haven't really gotten that far around, but they're like, well, yeah, I've been to like West Texas or I've been to East Texas, but like I haven't been out of Texas, where it's like Texas is like its own fucking country. So like that makes a little more sense. People in Wisconsin, like literally will be from the same really shitty small town, will like then buy a house there and then raise their family there and then like have really strong opinions about anything that's going on in the country. Like they fucking know anything. Like you've never even been out of this town. And everyone else in this town has never been out of this town. Like you really don't know shit. Um, get out and about, live your life, man. Like people, people need to live their lives. Hmm. It's almost too creamy. I don't really want to put another tea bag because I'm already using two. And it's caffeinated. This one is caffeinated. My other teas aren't caffeinated. And I've been trying to cut this as the first caffeine. I had one this morning as well. This morning or yesterday? One of these days. I had I had them as well. Two of them. And yeah, I don't want to be getting myself all over caffeinated. I'm really trying to cut down on my fucking addiction. Because that's what it is for sure. Um, yeah, I've been trying to eat healthy in general. I've been like eating spinach by the fistful, which is definitely clearing me out. And I've been like eating nuts for snacks and um, like not eating any bread, which I love, like breads and pastas and stuff, but I've been cutting down on the carbs and the sugars. So I haven't been drinking soda either. Um, you know, I've been eating like pepperoni and salami and summer sausage. Um, I don't know what you call that kind of meat, but I love it. So I've got that going for me. I don't, that's not the healthiest thing, but it's an alternative to get in those proteins and kind of get in that fuller feeling. I think the most carbs that I have is in my oatmeal, which I have just for like something hot. I want to eat something hot. It's pretty basic. pickled beets. I don't know if it's because I was a caregiver for so long and just like every old person has pickled beets around, or they really are just fucking good. They're really good. Beets are good. I could eat just beet right out of the fucking ground. I love them. They're very good, but especially pickled, like pickled beet juice, like it's good. It's good. It's so funny because like I did not grow up with like any of these things really being part of my diet. Um, by any stretch of the imagination, I grew up with parents that like made fun of everything, including like any sort of health food or anything that they even considered healthy, even if it wasn't truly healthy, because they aren't well educated. They're just strongly opinionated, my parents. And I grew up that way as well. So, you know, I, though, like branching out and I like trying new things and find myself invigorated and finding new things that I like. And that's why I like being around and traveling and like, yeah, Texas has always been something new every time I've come back. Like, I keep being forced to leave for different reasons, but I keep finding my way back here because I like it here. Okay? Anybody that has a problem with it can kick rocks. This is a very big state. You can literally go anywhere and you don't have to worry about me anymore. It's a very big state. I don't know why you're so worried about me. I don't even do anything. I don't get people. I really don't. Really don't. People are wild. People are wild. Are you that bored? Maybe you do need to leave Texas. Maybe you need to go somewhere. Maybe you need to travel. Go stay in Wisconsin for a while. See why the fuck I came here. Like, I, um, sorry. I'm feeling some type of way apparently. I started this all off really feeling some type of way. Um, yeah. Got a couple more days here in the hotel and then we're gonna go home, which I'm very excited about. Like, been thinking about just like bringing my bags in and like making my bed and like how good that's gonna feel. I will probably end up repotting you, my cacti, my plants. Um, I know when I purchased you, you all came as a family, but you have actually grown a lot even in just this short time. Um, I got them in North Texas. Um, and yeah, you guys have already like grown a lot and you're kind of filling up your pots pretty heavy. And like, I've got all these new little babies growing that need space and sunlight. So I'll at least move them out. I'm gonna have to restructure all of this. So I'm excited about those things. Those are the things I'm looking forward to. And then we'll get on with work. I don't think everybody needs to know my business, actually. I keep being told to quit telling people my business, and then I keep finding myself doing it. So I'll try to cut that out. But obviously, there's some things that just like are gonna be stated regardless. Not really. I guess especially not on videos like this. Like you guys don't give a fuck. You really don't care. I don't know what you come here for, but these ones, these videos with the tarot, I'm specifically going to mark as tarot readings. So I'm going to assume that anybody here is here for the tarot reading. Um, not to hear about my personal life. Okay, got that message. Thank you, guides, ancestors, dead friends and family, people looking out for me on the other side. Can I have a couple more cards to make like, okay, one more. That's not, let's chill out for a second because I haven't even gotten out what I'm trying to say. Okay, I will take these and I will take this one. I wish that I could set this up more so that you can see it, but I can't without the phone tipping over. Can I do it like this? Does that work? Probably as long as I don't fucking knock the table around too much. Okay. So I've got this one, and then I've got these two. I'm gonna put them up here. I want a couple. Okay. I mean, it's not about what I want, but this isn't what I asked for. Okay. Let me get out what I'm saying. If any cards fall out before I say what I'm saying, I'm not taking them. What I would like is a couple cards face down, please, as clarifiers. Okay. I'm not trying to be rude. We've got a real wild board going on here. So 2 more cards. I want 3 whole cards since I've got 3 face up. I haven't looked at the ones that I have face up, but I would like clarifiers for them. I said no, so sorry, not your time. 2 cards face down. I don't know. Okay, so let's clear some of this chaos. Okay, anybody, any energy in this space for chaos and confusion, please leave. This is not your time or space. I don't want you here. I am looking for clarification. I'm looking for conciseness. I'm looking to be able to tell a story that makes sense. So the chaos isn't helpful. I don't want any negativity in this space. This is for creative space, open for peace, love, harmony. Okay. What you're giving me is continued chaos, which is great. That's how life works. But in this craft, I don't need to accept that. I'm only accepting what comes to me calmly, reasonably, and face down, please. 1 card. 1 card. You were trying to throw an entire deck at me, and that is crazy. Spirits, guides, ancestors, those that are on my good side. Thank you. Oh, geez Louise. Okay, that was really wild. And these happen to be 2 cards. Sorry, I need to meditate about this first because this is a lot of energy. Ugh, this was just all really chaotic. Okay. And frustrating. So if that's the energy it's bringing out of me, okay, that's fine. I can resonate with that, but that's not the energy I actually want to work with, right? Okay. Give me some stability, give me some peace, give me wisdom, discernment. I don't want this to be a matter. I know I came in here all silly, acting all wild and crazy. I get it. I get it. All right. All right. Right. This is a wild and crazy one. This is a wild and crazy spread, I tell you what. Okay. We'll just go in. We're flipping this way. We've got the 6 of Cups as the initial. Can you see that? A little bit. Yeah, this camera isn't the best. My other phone is charging. So we've got the 6 of Cups in the upright as the initial starter to this. And what I'm noticing right now, well, like the first thing that I notice is that one of these stars in the cups is kind of like looking a little weepy, looking a little willowy because he's turned around. He doesn't have his face out like all the other stars do. I don't know if you can see this very clearly, but in these they have like little circles, the faces of the stars. But this one is face down. But that made me think of my plans. Made me think I got all my plans here and like they're just waiting to go home. Just waiting to go home, right? That's an overall feeling I can resonate with. But the clarifiers I got directly under that initially. Okay, and these are all, this is just deeper and deeper clarification. This is a wild spread. I've never done anything like this. or seen anything like this. Okay, my clarifiers. And I did not look at these prior to this either, like until I'm looking at them right now. Is the Page of Swords and the Knight of Swords in the reverse? Okay, so this is them in the upright. Those are my clarifiers in the reverse. Okay, so it's already telling me like you can't just define home as one place or as one feeling. It's not one truth. It's a whole realm of things. Like you really got to go with the flow. The Page of Swords is standing in like there's like these nice puffy clouds. The ground he's standing on is kind of, you know, it has its own motion. The trees in the background are experiencing a lot of wind, and he has wind blowing through his hair, but not so much. Not so much like in his clothing. Um, so it's like not that strong of a breeze. It's just that the winds of change are present, and he's got his sword up and he's holding it and he's ready. But he's the Page of Swords. Like it's, you know, he's not a skilled warrior by any stretch of the imagination. He's not even a knight. Um, he's just a boy with a sword and just doing his best, right? But then the Knight of Swords, like, is the first in the active movement of swords. The knight is the active movement of anything, the first in the active movement, and then the queen, and then the king, um, and then the emperor or empress. Uh, he's full of motion. You know, his steed. He's on a steed. His steed is running full force. Their both of their hair, their cloaks, everything that they're wearing, aside from his armor, obviously, is blowing in the wind. He's got his sword out, one-handed, and the background behind him. Well, one, interestingly enough, these trees actually look like those are the knight's trees. Those are the page's trees, and they're further back in the background. So it almost seems like he's in the background from where I think it's just a little later on. I think it's just that I think that they're the same. They're the same person. They're just evolving, right? Um, and the swords is like truth, uh, confidence, strength, um, stability, security. Um, what's the word? Assertiveness. In the reverse, and with them both together like this, in the reverse, it's almost just denoting to me like just to be patient. The Six of Cups, the Six of Cups card is just so calm and cute. You know, it's like these young, you can't really see it too well, but it's like a young boy giving some flowers to a young girl. It's cute. It's like just be patient. We know you're anxious to get home. You know you're prepared, but just be patient. Which would make sense why my clarifiers for those two cards I thought was just one card, which is why I took it, but it actually ended up being two cards, which I didn't notice until I started the read. The Wheel of Fortune here, and the High Priestess, but they came on their side. The Wheel of Fortune, like the World card, has the four beasts of the apocalypse. But it also has a sphinx with a sword sitting on top of the wheel, has the devil kind of seductively with his butt cheeks wrapped around the wheel on the one side of the wheel and a serpent on the other. And then butt cheeks. There's the sphinx blue and all the beasts. Earth and air are how it's pointed, because the way that the wheel is, if the card is upright, is that it has fire and water. So now it has earth and air. No, it has earth and air. Air is upside down. Like the prophecies being fulfilled. The high priestess is here. The high priestess with the wheel of fortune is kind of like a very, to me, is resonating as like extremely esoteric. Like, what you're waiting for was already prophesied. Like, it's already been set in stone. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. The high priestess always resonates to me as just so like, what's the word? I was gonna say resound, like so like dignified, like so resolved, resolute, I suppose is the right word. She knows what she's doing. She's the one that people go to ask for wisdom and guidance. You know, she knows how to read the stars and how to read the scripts. And it's also very interesting because like most of the other cards kind of have like a medieval feel to them, but these two are very biblical. She has Boaz and Joachim on either side of her as the towers. She herself, being the high priestess, has a cross on her chest with the moon at her feet, where this is like the wheel of the fortune has the devil figure, which like is such a silly looking figure, to be honest. Like an interesting little devil. But then it has like the four beasts of the apocalypse. It has the serpent. It has the sphinx, which like, oh right, a lot of these also take on a weird Egyptianness to them. I mean, obviously, that's largely just in part because of the mystery schools, but like this seems so deeply personal in a way, just because of like my Christian upbringing. And like releasing certain concepts in order to mature and deepen other concepts. Like not just completely releasing just out of some sort of like defiance, but as part of a progression towards something greater. And it's almost like a reminder that like with the truths here from the knights or from the swords being in reverse, that like the what you see on the surface like isn't everything. There's something so much deeper going on. And like the Six of Cups also like denotes like being given a cup, right? And like being like receiving a cup or being able to give a cup, like this idea of a transaction or some sort of exchange within love or community or care of some sort. And it's like to wait on a timing for those things because there's something deeper happening. There's a prophecy that's being fulfilled. The apocalypse, like when I see the Wheel of Fortune, like the card reads to me, if I were to define it in one word, it's like apocalypse. And like, I'm aware that in Christianity, that's generally viewed as negative. It's something to be feared and it's something that people have like a lot of trepidation about. But I mean, the apocalypse means like a sudden awakening. And like, if people are sleeping while there's a fucking fire happening, I think that it's a good thing for them to become awake. So the high priestess doesn't look nervous. She never looks nervous. But like, it doesn't resonate with me that there's like something bad happening. It's like there's something good happening, but like it's something like it's not like really good or bad. There's a peace in it. Like this Six of Cups at the top and being like the majority of the message, like it's what you keep coming back to. It's what you're able to keep coming back to, and there's a comfort and a nostalgia there. Um, there's something pure and innocent about that, and that all resonates with me quite positively, regardless of what's actually happening. Right? Um, there's a place for passion. There's a place for curiosity, um, but it's being not just tapered. It's being in kind of tapered with these coming sideways to stop these in reverse, but it's like it's being like balanced off by the high priestess and the Wheel of Fortune. Again, also because the Wheel of Fortune falls under the Page of Swords in reverse, um, which, like I said, like resembling like a sense of curiosity, a sense of like opportunism, and it's like waiting on the right time to make those movements because there's something so much greater happening. And like the high priestess being underneath the Knight of Swords in reverse is like there is a very specific time and you will know it. Like there is specific things that need to be done and you will be the one to do them. uh, but we're just waiting patiently. Like the fact that these both came on the side are like we're waiting, we're waiting for what are we waiting for? Okay. Okay, I don't know if you can see this. So what came out on either side, as I fuck up the whole board, what came out on either side is the lovers and the devil, which is so funny. Because look at these cards. I mean, they're the exact opposite of each other, right? Here, the angel is like divine and like the people are free and they're, there's a sense of beginning here where here they're bound to each other underneath the devil and like there's a feeling of like eternal oppression, right? These are literally the opposite cards from one another. And it's also so funny because in this one Eve is in front of the tree of life and it has pomegranates on it and then it has the serpent, and in this one or and in the beginning he has the Adam has the tree behind him and it's on fire. In this one, Eve has like almost like like the serpent is the tail, but it's really just a pomegranate. She has like the same fruit as her tail, and Adam has fire as his tail. I'm also, huh? It's so interesting because I've never really looked at this card. I haven't seen this card in person, the Devil card. I'm noticing a lot of things. Okay. So interesting. So what I noticed first was like, okay, they have tails. They also have horns. Um, they have these wreaths on their heads that have horns on them. And then they have these tails. And so they, in of themselves, are like little devils themselves. We're like in this, like there is a sense that they're divine, that they themselves are divine. They're the very beginning. And here it's like a perpetual ending. You know, they're damned and they're little devils themselves. Um, and the second thing that I noticed was that Adam's tail is on fire, right? Because I noticed their tails, but that his tail is actually being lit on fire by this. It almost looks like some type of mace that the devil is holding, which is on fire, and he's holding it down. Um, and it just happens to be lighting Adam's tail on fire. I'm also noting, well, the third thing I notice is that the devil in this card is doing this with his hand, which is the live long and prosper from Star Trek. Uh, but obviously, any hand symbol has deeper occult meanings. Um, I would assume it's a symbol of duality to some degree and division, uh, which like in Star Trek like has been taken in the positive in the same way that like the swastika used to mean something quite positive and then was taken in the inverse and became something satanic or like evil or negative. So I'm assuming that it's something similar to that, but I don't honestly know. Um, I've been finding this very interesting though. So Adam and Eve in this one, Eve is looking up to the divine and her arms are open and she's kind of almost aloof. Where Adam's kind of looking at her and like his arms are kind of open. Um, their posture is very casual, but he's kind of looking at her like he just looks a little bit disappointed. Where in the devil card, she has her hands at her side and she's standing upright, like she's standing straight. In this one, her hips are curved slightly. In this one, she's totally straight and like she almost looks like just not just aloof in this one, but like completely like off, like she's not thinking for herself. Like she looks like a robot, right? And Adam, in this one, like I said, his arms are open and he's kind of looking at her with a sense of disappointment. Well, in this one, chagrin, is that the right word? Like he doesn't look as disappointed as he does in this one. He almost looks more like he's mansplaining to Eve. And she's just like deadpan, like emotionless completely. And he has his hand on his side like this, and he has his hand like this. Where in this one, where in the lover's card, he has his hand open and he's kind of like, but in this one, he has his hand like this, like he's mansplaining. And like I said, like the devil's lighting his tail on fire. It's almost like there's some sort of, and I mean, in the story of Adam and Eve, if you don't know it, or even if you do know it, like Eve was perceived to be innocent as the snake crept up and, you know, like here we have like the divine saying like, you know, the divine like communicating with them and her being like completely open, just not really thinking about anything. And then suddenly the snake starts talking to her and she falls for it so innocently. And then Adam falls for her innocently when she tries to give him the apple. And then he takes the apple and then like everything gets all fucked up. And then he blames her. And then he blames God for giving him to her to him. And so this almost like it looks like that, where it's like, okay, but obviously like this woman is an idiot. So like that's why we're in this situation. Like it's almost like he's like blaming her, right? And like that's why the devil has like they're chained to the devil's post. But it's almost like that's why he's feeling that way, and that's why she's like, it's because I mean it's because she's completely emotionless, and he's like, it's so funny, and he's like, well, this is obviously your fault, and the devil's just behind there like almost like not even like a real entity. Like the devil himself is like just seems like just like a metaphor for the concept, right? But like with that symbol, like he's like showing how this is his power in action, is to cause division and disunity. Which is such an interesting concept too, because he has the upside down star, you know, the upside down pentacle on his head, right? I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there a little bit. Um, which in this card too, the way that it's silver, like how everything is silvery, the way that it's in there, it's like it's not actually part of the image. It's like just showing that that's his symbol on top. It's almost like I haven't. It's not like that in other cards. Other cards don't have that. It's very specific, where it's like it's not actually part of the image. It's just showing the power of the image that way. Um, which is so interesting too, because that like reminds me of like recently being reminded that like it's not that the devil is a liar, it's the devil is a lie. Like the devil doesn't even exist. We create those concepts, we create the sense of division, we create disunity. Those things wouldn't exist. In fact, all things work together for good. All things are already good. It's us and our matter of perception that puts things into a negative state and causes that disalignment, that misalignment, or that disillusion. And having a weird time communicating. I think it's because the other times my teas have all hit. This one's strange. I don't know if putting the almond milk in the coffee maker was the right idea. Um, yeah, very interesting. I'm actually curious too, because I don't know the tarot well enough to know. I've noticed that, like, you know, obviously, like, the Three of Cups, the six, like, the Three of Cups is denoted with the number three, but the Lovers is denoted with six, and the Devil is denoted with 15. It's like weird, weird, because those numbers are significant to me. Like, I take them differently. I've tended to ignore them in readings because I just don't know that much yet when it comes to that. And still I'm noting them, but I'm not going to apply them because, well, I don't know. I mean, the Wheel of Fortune is 10, and that makes sense to me. The High Priestess is 2, and that makes sense to me. I'm curious as to, like, if the Lovers is 6 and the Devil is all the way at 15, like, all of these come in between those, which is so interesting because that's almost like saying, like, in a weird time warp, that, like, between the moment that Adam and Eve were created and the moment that they chose damnation, that they chose to create the devil and chose to bind themselves that way, like, it was in between those two times that everything existed. Maybe not in between, because there are other things that existed prior, like the high priestess existed prior to Adam and Eve in the garden. And which is also interesting too, because in the Bible, which, like, Adam and Eve, I use the Bible because that's what I was raised with. Adam and Eve's story isn't specific to the Bible. It actually existed long before the Bible. Um, I use the Bible because that's what I was raised with. But in the Bible itself, like, Genesis 1 refers to God as Elohim in the original text, which means, like, the multi-creator God. It's just like the essence of God, more or less. Where in Genesis 2, God begins to be referenced as Yahweh. And Yahweh is a very specific God. Yahweh is the God of, like, the jealous God of war that, like, kills innocent people and babies, and, like, the Israelites are his people. And in the story of Adam and Eve, like, Adam and Eve were in the garden and then they committed sin. They were in the garden, it was just the two of them. And they lived for about 300 years or so in the garden, just the two of them. Then they committed the sin of eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and then they were cast out of the garden. And upon being cast out of the garden, they were then cursed with childbirth, pain in childbirth, but childbirth, because they hadn't had children prior, according to the Bible. According to the Bible, Cain was their firstborn and Abel was their secondborn. But interestingly enough, and that they were born outside of the garden. But interestingly enough, when Cain killed Abel, he was then marked and cursed. He was marked with a mark on his forehead and then cursed and sent to the land east of Eden called Nod, where there were a pagan people there that worshipped other gods other than Yahweh. And they, not knowing Yahweh and not knowing that Cain had killed his brother, received Cain unto them as a vagrant, and taught him their ways. And then Cain began, he married a pagan woman and began practicing paganism. I always found that so weird because, like, they graze over it in church, and I went to Christian schools and churches my entire upbringing, and never once was that properly explained to me, which I found so interesting as an adult because I remember reading the Bible 3 times through, once as a child, once in my late teens, and then once in my early adulthood. And in my early adulthood, when I was reading it through and studying it, I was doing that, like, it had always been part of, like, a school or church program when I had done it prior. It was something that we did because we were kind of told to do it. And I was one of the only people that actually did it in my, in my class or in my, like, little group. But the third time was because I'd already done it a couple times and because I wanted to do it on my own and see what I took from it just on my own when it wasn't being, like, guided, when I wasn't being guided through it and I wasn't being, like, told what to do with it. And as soon as I started reading it, it took on, like, this whole different life where I was like, this does not even seem like the same Bible I grew up being taught. Reading it just for myself was, like, so crazy. And it's so funny because, like, the King James Version of the Bible, I was raised in churches that taught me that the King James Version is, like, the only true version of the Bible. Okay. But that version in and of itself was written for peasant people that didn't know how to read. It was actually written for the priests under King James and written for them to give to the peasant people that couldn't read for themselves. So these people had to go to church because they couldn't read. And the priests could read this now King James version of the Bible, and they would then give the word to the people. And that was all done just so that the peasants also believed in the same religion that King James did. In fact, it was canonized a very specific way under King James's legislation in order that the people were receiving the information King James wanted them to. Okay, so like the whole thing is like brainwashing, social brainwashing. It's a social construct of the Bible, and like what's so interesting about the Bible is what's interesting about any book, which is that if it's not being taken up to a pulpit and told what it says, if you read it for yourself, you will take a lot of things out of it that are very different from what some man behind a pulpit that went to school for 12 years to tell you what it says would say. It says, right? Um, and that I suppose, like, it's just weird because I was raised in churches where they told us to like read our Bibles for ourselves, but at the same time, like, they would then tell us every week what it was that we were supposed, like, what it was saying, what it was that we were reading, you know, and then we would have space to question it. And like, then like that was more just to like gauge how brainwashed or not we were or weren't, so that they could double down on whatever theologies they needed to in order to make sure that we all shared the same belief system, which is also wild to me because I just don't think that makes any sense in the way that things actually work. But yeah, when I read the Bible for myself, really truly for myself for the first time, and I read it all the way through, it was wild. And it took me, I think, 3 months to do it because I had to keep taking breaks because it was intense and it was a lot, especially going through Chronicles was like mind numbing. Um, but it was actually very helpful. I took a Bible study at that time that actually explained a lot of Chronicles and like the reason that those lineages are so important and how the lineages break down. And it actually, really, the whole point of Chronicles is to show that Jesus Christ was actually within the lineage of Melchizedek, and that that was part of a prophecy from Joshua, and that is why he was the prophesied savior. So that was really the whole point of it. Not that I fully believe those things, but like it I get it. I get it. That's the King James version of the Bible again. Um, why was I even saying that? All right. So like, yeah, when I was reading the Bible, like I just found that so weird that it was talking where I was like, wait a second, like there's not only is there other people, but there's like a whole ass other civilization that does not worship the God of the garden that's already existed. They already have, and like they like were considered pagans because they like had tools of war and they worshiped like other gods, and they had like other languages to speak, and like they had all these other things that like were not established in the garden. And like Adam and Eve like get kicked directly out of the garden, and then they're just like outside of the garden, like plowing fields and like having pain and childbirth. Like they're creating their own civilization. But like the way that it was taught to me in the church was that like that was it. Adam and Eve are everybody's parents from the very beginning, and that, you know, it was Cain and Abel, and then Cain died, or I mean, Cain killed Abel, and then Seth was born in Abel's place. And Cain's line, because he had been cursed, um, was the line of Satan. Where, like, in, I believe it's in, well, it might be in John, but I believe it's in Revelation where it talks about um, the seed of the serpent and the seed of Christ. And there was always like this stipulation between like those that are born of God and those that are born not of God. Um, which is like just a weird thing, also. Um, but that was the concept, was that like, you know, and so then Seth, their third son, is the one that like brings on, like, he's the new Adam. And there's always this concept of the new Adam. And that was something that was also taught in these churches, where like Joshua was the new Adam and then Jesus was the new Adam. that Seth was the first new Adam. And like, I remember us discussing it, and how it was discussed was like, well, okay, we don't like to talk about it, but obviously in that day, since there was nobody else, like Adam and Eve then had daughters, they just weren't accounted for. And it was Seth bore children out of those daughters, and that's where everybody came from. Okay, understandable. What doesn't make sense is that it literally says in that same exact Bible, like this isn't coming from the book of Enoch, that isn't in the actual like King James version, like in the King James version of the Bible, it says that God cursed Cain and then sent him to the land east of Eden called Nod, where there were already an established people that took Cain in and took him in as their own, and that entire people were considered cursed because they did not worship Yahweh and because they accepted the cursed Cain. Where did those people come from? And how were there already pagans already worshiping other gods? It's such an interesting concept for the fact that, like, Christians like to believe that Christianity is just all that's ever existed. And then you bring up that, like, no, there was already paganism in the world long prior. There was already other belief systems. There were already other belief systems, monotheistic belief systems, where a demigod type, like half god, half man, came as the savior to the people and was crucified, born of a virgin, crucified, and then resurrected in order to claim their godhood. And that was who the people were to follow. And that's what the religions were based on. All of that existed prior to Christianity. They just don't like to admit that for some reason, which is so weird because like it says it right there in the Bible. Okay, but it also like is denoting that like those people are the seed of Satan and those people were already cursed, right? Which is just, I get it. I get it when you're trying to create a manifest destiny where the Israelites are God's chosen people and they have every claim to everything they've ever said that they have claim over because of these these scriptures, you know, their religious historical texts. Not to be like, and it isn't anti-Semitic to be against Israel, for the record. I'm not against anything in the Middle East. I'm not against Middle Easterns to, you know, I'm not against any of that. Being anti-Israel is not being anti-Semitic. There is a separation between those. Semitism is like all of the Middle Eastern qualities, including Islam. Um, so being anti-Islamic is being anti-Semitic. Like, so that's one thing. Like, I'm not even trying to get into that, but like, it's weird to me, and it was always weird to me, the correlation between Christianity and Israel, and why like Christian nations have to support Israel and like have to help Israel from like being overtaken when like Israel has like weapons of mass destruction and shit, and like they have all these like the strongest banks in the world, and like they have like in their version of the Vatican, whatever it's called, like where their temple, and like right the Islamic people took their temple away, and now they have every right to take their temple away because it's part of their texts. It's so wild to me because it's literally like, and that's something that like I think I said it in my last video, but like this, like Christianity is literally the religion being used to create a one world government, a one world religion, a one world society, and a hive mind. It's Christianity that's being used for that. And if you don't think it is, then please remember that Hitler himself would have claimed the same Christianity that we're promoting today, the same Christianity that Trump promotes today, right? They're the same. And that's all like part of the same system that is a manifest destiny, that like these symbols precede the Bible. I can only use the Bible because I know very little about like the Sumerian texts or about like the ancient Sanskrit was in the Sumerians, the Vedas, yeah, in India, or like even like the ancient Tao, you know, in Thailand. Thailand? No, not Malaysia, not Thailand. What is that called with the mountains? It's not just the Mongols. Where they got the swastika from? I can't think of it. Like in all of these ancient cultures, like that's what's cool about the tarot, is because it kind of takes all of that, right, and puts it all together into these different types of things. That was a total aside. I know nobody asked for my opinion about those things. Maybe that was too much for some people, but I'll start making videos where I talk about all that and get into that too, because I have some time-space theories that make a lot more sense than most of the other shit going on these days. So I have the Queen of Swords in reverse. Okay. The Queen of Swords in reverse. In between these two. I've been told things are working, things are deeper than I realize. Even what I do realize it, but like it's all just a matter of waiting, right? It's all a matter of waiting. Because we're in between these two. Okay, we're in between the Lovers and the Devil. What's in between the Lovers and the Devil? Well, the Queen of Swords, right? The truth is gonna prevail. The truth is gonna prevail. I don't have to worry about that. I do spend a lot of time worrying about that. I don't, but I do, obviously, put a lot of energy into like cultivating the truth within myself and then speaking about it. It's just not the time yet. The Queen of Swords is not the King of Swords. The Queen of Swords is more open in that way. The Queen of Swords, like, and she has clouds all over, like, is like, knows the truth, has the truth, gives the truth freely. The King of Swords more like stands in integrity with the truth. And like, it's like nobody can come against him because he has the truth. The Queen of Swords, however, is like offering the truth. The Queen would, I think the King probably does it too, but I'm thinking of like knighting people with the sword. Like that's the image that I get with the Queen of Swords, is like the capacity to be able to honor the truth in that way, or to not delegate the truth. It's more of a delegation of a definition or of a title. Can I have, I would prefer them face down and one at a time, please. Okay, they said no. There's the Knight of Wands in reverse. Your passion is misplaced. Yeah, because obviously I have a lot of passion about what I'm talking about, but my passion is misplaced. Okay, so that's what I was about to ask, actually. What is the focus? What is the story between the Lovers and the Devil? What's going on between these two? Where are we at in history? Okay, that wasn't a single card and they fell face up. Yeah, well, if you give me a single card face up one at a time, that'll let me know that that's the right message. I'm not going to take anything else. I need to know that it's the right message. Please and thank you. I will try to shuffle them nicely, but I am asking for those specifics in order to have the proper clarification. I would like 3 cards, please. 1. It's just 1. Do appreciate it. 2 more cards, please. Face down. They don't need to be one at a time, but one at a time would be great. excited if two cards fall face up, which was the Six of Swords upright and the Eight of Wands in reverse. It's all just telling me to hold my horses and to not bite the hand that feeds me. I'm not trying to do that, but I am trying to get a concise message because obviously I do tend to get a little opinionated and I have my own information and stuff to work with. And I'm not just trying to put my opinion out here as the truth. So I have these three clarifiers. As to what's going on in this time between the Lovers and the Devil. We're in this time, right? This is the time in which we exist. It's now the way that this works, like there's karmic cycles that happen throughout history, and we are obviously in a karmic cycle right now. But like the whole of existence is itself a karmic cycle as well. So like the beginning and the end in this way. And it's not definitive. That's not the devil. It was obviously not actually the end. And death isn't the end. It's all just a matter of transition. The devil is a sign of damnation, but it's not a sign, and it's a sign of being trapped, but like it's not a sign of like that there is nothing to come past it. Though I haven't seen a card higher than 15, but I also haven't fully been paying attention. So what I got in between is the Ace of Swords in the upright, the Queen of Cups in reverse, and the Ten of Wands in the upright. So like there's a lot of work that's being done, and it's kind of like a task to line everything up. The Ten of Wands came out directly under the Wheel of Fortune, and so it's kind of like, you know, it takes time to balance these things out and to move all of these things into their right places. Again, the reminder was first, the reminder for this one was the Eight of Wands in the upright, which is that you can't just, well, what we're not trying not to do is throw all of our wands in one direction, hoping that we hit the target and then being left without any wands. We're being precise and intentional. It's just slow going because there's a lot that we're working with. And it's just going to take some time. The Ace of Swords was clarified. I put the cards away because I didn't like them being thrown at me face up, to be honest. I was being Queen of Cups in reverse. But it was the Six of Swords in the upright. And that is, you know, that there's a lot of work, that there's a sense of responsibility and struggle and suffering. And maybe even like past feelings of loss that make the burden heavy. But we're still moving forward, and it's important to keep moving forward to protect those that we love and care for. But it's likely not an easy task. The Ace of Swords is a reminder that like the truth does prevail. It's underneath the High Priestess and right next to the Lovers. Like, you know, it's just a matter of time. This is all still just denoting that it's a matter of time. The Queen of Cups in reverse, you know, like I said, I was kind of having that attitude. But being in the middle, it's like maybe that's even why it's taking time, is because there isn't a full balance. We don't have any cups out on the spread outside of the main card. The main card is the Six of Cups. And you know, it's one of the more pleasant in that way. For sure. I can't think of what the Seven of Cups looks like. I don't know if I've seen that one yet. The Eight of Cups, I know what it looks like. The Nine of Cups, I know what it looks like. And the Ten of Cups, I know what it looks like. The Queen of Cups, then. Do we have a Knight of Cups? We must, and I haven't seen that one either. The Queen of Cups is like a balance of give and take. But it's more like, it's more like the internalized version. Like, it's not yet to the point of being able to actively give everything perfectly. Like, we're not in eternity yet. The Queen of Cups is like the internalization of that balance of being able to ourselves receive the balance of, you know, what is hard, what is easy, what is true, what is ego, what is empowering, what is disempowering. In the reverse, again, it's like the reflection of like, that's what we're waiting on. That's what we're waiting on, is the Queen of Cups to be turned over. Bringing it back to the Six of Cups, where like the Queen of Cups has this cup for herself and she has everything, so she like doesn't need anyone else, and like she's totally contented within herself. But the Empress is even more that symbol, and that's because she's it's not just the cup that she's satisfied with. She also has every other. She has the swords, she has the pentacles, she has the wands. So the Queen of Cups, like the balancer, is the King of Cups. Okay, but there's a lot in between that. There's a lot to get to that point, to get to the King of Cups. The Eight of Wands again. This time, though, underneath the Queen of Cups in reverse is that we're throwing all of our wands with intention, with purpose, with some skill and some direction behind them in order to get where we're going. What were my clarifiers under the Queen of Cups? Queen of Swords. It's the initial, and the Knight of Wands under that. All in reverse. The Eight of Wands upright. To get to the passion of being able to bring the energy that we want to bring into things. Like the initial is the Six of Cups, a sense of home, a sense of nostalgia. To be able to move in the direction of making that happen, we need the Queen of Swords in the upright, but we have her in the reverse because it's about being able to speak one's own truth without falter, but also without harming anyone. The King of Cups can harm someone with the truth. The Queen of Swords, the King of Swords, the Queen of Swords is more just being able to prove herself, and prove what is with it, which is clarified then by the Queen of Cups, which is being able to embrace one's own truth and being able to find comfort in what one has, which takes skill and takes purpose and takes intention. And that's what this is all about, I suppose. You know, the whole process is learning how to do that. This seems so unresolved to me. I mean, it is. This isn't like a beginning end thing, even with these pictures, but I feel like I'm missing something. What am I missing? There's something that I'm missing. What am I missing? I will take it however you give it. Please don't throw the entire deck at me. I don't want to read the entire deck. I would like something concise, but I will take it how you give it. Just I would like to know what I'm missing here, why it feels unresolved. In order to free the masculine and feminine from this self-doubt and division and disunity that they've found themselves in, it takes using what we know to be the truth in a skilled fashion against our own exhaustion, against our own like victim mentality. Against our own laziness or against our own desire to be viewed a different way. We have to reclaim our divinity. Which we already have. It's going to take time for us to see it properly. And maybe this is more deeply personal than, you know, maybe this is more for me than it is for the general. I like to think that everything that is for me can be taken for anybody else and just as much the same. Like it might very specifically be for you, but that doesn't mean that I can't take something from it. Can I have a clarifier for the lovers and for the devil? Just one clarifier apiece. First for the lovers and then for the devil. I got 3. As I put them down, these 2 turned, so I'm going to use these here, this one here. I'm going to flip this one in the reverse, and I'm going to flip these over. The lovers has the 7 of swords. And the devil has the 6 of swords. It's so funny that these 2 came out again. They were like, we are part of this. you're part of this reading, but I'm glad that they're now in a good place. Strength, clarifying, and bringing everything together, right? Which, like, I feel like is understood. Like, I get that. It's courage, but it's also wisdom. It's courage, like, not just on the sense of like the lion being like the symbol of courage, but like the woman with the lion is courageous to tame the lion. And she does so in such a sweet and loving fashion. It's not like an aggressive assertiveness, it's this eternal balance that allows the lion to feel safe so it doesn't have to fight. It can be pampered like a puppy. So I kind of already went through the Six of Swords in this position, and so I'm glad it came out again in this position. It is reflective of the Ten of Wands in this deck, and it's that there is some suffering. It's part of it. Hardships are part of it, but we're moving into clearer waters. We're moving into something better. It may be hard to see through the struggle. It may seem that all we can see is the illusion of division and disunity. I'm just now thinking about how I hadn't finished with the devil having the pentacle upside down on his forehead. Well, it's not really a pentacle because it doesn't have this circle around it, it's just a pentagram. But the pentagram in the reverse, to me, is not a negative symbol innately. It's in the upverse, it's a sign of standing in one's own independent power as an individual that is capable of receiving the energy force from the reality around us and being able to put it out in some balanced fashion. In the reverse, though, it doesn't read to me as imbalance, although on the devil card it does. But in general, when I see an inverted pentagram, I see it as also a symbol of power. In fact, I see it as a symbol of spiritual power, where I see the pentagram upwards as physical power. And so I guess that's like the ominousness of it on this card is, or at least the intended ominousness is that our spiritual power is being taken and suppressed into one point, or that we are being manipulated from the outside in. That's a side note. I just hadn't gotten to that earlier. But yeah, what I'm seeing from this card as a clarifier is that there's a purpose in the suffering, and it's just a matter of time. And these things are all part of it. And it makes it hard to see through things. You know, when you look at the Wheel of Fortune, the red devil on it kind of stands out before anything. It doesn't, but it does, kind of, just because it's the only thing red on the card. So, like, I think that's kind of the point of the devil always. And I actually saw it today where there's a story of a dad who had given his children suckers and then given them a rock and made them put the rock in their shoe and then told them to walk down the street and then to walk back with the rock in their shoe. And when they came back, he was like, "So how was your walk?" He gave them the suckers and they had the suckers the whole time. They were sucking on the suckers while they were walking with a rock in their shoe. They came back and he said, "How was your walk?" And they were like, "It sucked. We were walking with a rock in our shoe and our feet hurt now." He was like, "Oh, surprising that you didn't say anything about the sucker." Like, you know, it's very easy for us to focus on the bad when the bad is actively happening. Even when there's good actively happening, we tend to focus on the bad. And somebody in that post had commented that that was actual survival skill, that it's built into us to, like, that's why we get PTSD and stuff. It's built into us to not hyper focus on the negative, but to receive the negative and to remember the negative even more than the positive, because the positive can happen and we can enjoy it as it's happening, but we remember the negative so that we don't reciprocate or recycle it, so that it doesn't happen again. And I think that that's important, and I think that that's maybe like a reflection of what's being said here too. You know, although the way that it's panned out is that this is the beginning with the Adam and Eve, and this is the end with them in hell. That's not really what's being said. In fact, it's almost the opposite. If there were a timeline, it's actually in the inverse. But that it's a matter of focus, right? And like, on this whole side, there's this focus on the negative. There's a focus on the exhaustion. There's a focus on the self-doubt, the worry, the insignificance, or the inexperience, and the unknown, um, the uncertainties of things, the certainty of other things. And it's all kind of in the negative that way. And like, you know, the Adam in this one where he's like mansplaining that, but his tail's being lit on fire by the devil. So like, that's where that's coming from, right? Where in this one, although it doesn't seem innately negative, it's the Seven of Swords. And what I see in that, in this read, and in the position that it's in this read, is like a reminder to not be in that position. The strength is the overall like resonator, the overall reflection. The Seven of Swords is like, he's like, oh geez, I'm carrying all these swords and I'm already having a hard time, and there's still 2 swords for me to pick up. But it's almost like, don't worry about what you can't control. Don't worry about what you can't control. Like, if Eve would have not worried about what she couldn't control, she wouldn't have given in to the snake in the first place. If Adam wouldn't be giving in to what he couldn't control, he wouldn't be being all fucking weird in these cards. You know, what we can control is where we put our strengths, what we do with the skills and the tools at hand. That's the Eight of Wands. You know, my screen is blurry. My camera's partially broken. So like, we're already carrying 5 swords. I mean, you're carrying 3 in one hand and only 2 in the other hand. I do feel like you should be able to pick up one more. I feel like you can carry all the swords. I feel like we could figure it out. But it's not something to stress about. That much I do know. And this whole reading is like, don't stress. Give it time. Everything's happening in divine timing. The truth will prevail. Stand in your strength. Find that internal balance. The sense of nostalgia like keeps bringing us back, you know, in the 6 of Cups. And there's something about nostalgia that makes us feel like we're like racing. Like if we don't hold on to this tight enough, or if we don't do things right enough, or if we don't move fast enough, we'll miss it. Because like, you know, time passes so quickly, and like we were just young and now we're all the way here. We're like, you know, the Bible story, like it just happened like that. We're like, we were just eating the fruit and suddenly now we're damned to hell forever. We're like, there's a whole existence happening in between those things. And in every moment, there's an entire existence happening that we're not in control of. We're experiencing. And it's supposed to be like entertainment to us. It's supposed to be something to be experienced, you know? Not all entertainment is pleasant. I enjoy scary movies, largely in part because they're not pleasant and because it forces me to like find the light in that way. And like sometimes they do resonate with me, but mostly it's that. And there's something like all of this is like that. Like, one, to remember that like the devil is a concept, and we don't need to put that concept into things, but at the same time, the devil is a concept that keeps coming up. Negativity is a concept that keeps coming up. The fear of different things and stuff, it keeps coming up, and it's in part essential to the movement of the wheel, but it's definitely not everything. um, it's certainly not everything. Um, there's so much more going on here. But ultimately, at the end, like we finish off, we have the Six of Cups to begin and to be the main story, and we have Strength being the final card that kind of pulls it all together. So it's, be patient, because what is meant for you is already on its way. There's just all of this other stuff that has to happen. Um, so don't get caught up in all of these different things that you very easily could get caught up in. Just keep your peace, keep your wits about you, and what's meant to be will be. Okay, that's what I got. Have fun. Night.